We are on. Go ahead.
We are on?
We're on.
Hi, guys. How you doing? Welcome to our, what is this, episode?
Well, I don't know.
Who cares? We'll give it a number
soon.
later. But
I think this might end up being 14.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm working on 12 right now. I got held up this past week with some things that jumped in at the last minute.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm working on 12. And there's one more in the can after that, and then this one will be the new one. So
okay, cool.
We might even be contemporaneous in a week.
Close.
I'm Mark.
I'm Elmer, and we are
PSI.
Piano Scenes Investigations. Boy, what a week it's been. Well, all right. So I took a chance last Saturday over at the store. Okay. Von Maur department store. If some of you like to go shopping, Von Maur department store. A little pricey, but they've got their sales racks up there too. But enjoy the piano playing while they were out there. We had talked about in the past about the state of classical music, and I was sort of disheartened the more I thought about it that the most popular request I get as far as classical music is either going to be, oh, he's laughing already.
I can tell what you're going to say.
You know what I'm going to say? Okay. It's either going to be Furley's.
I knew you were going to say that.
That's the first one. They all ask for Furley's.
Moonlight Schroeder, right?
Well, yeah, it could be Schroeder, yeah. Moonlight Sonata. Notice that they're both Beethoven, okay? And Clair de Lune. Clair de Lune, mostly because they know, well, some of them can't even remember the title Clair de Lune. They have to say, can you play that song from Ocean's 11? Or some of the younger ones is, do you know how to play that piano piece from Twilight? Something like that. So I'll sit there and go, it sounds like this. And they're like, oh, awesome! These kids. So, anyways.
Do they ever ask for Star Wars or anything?
They ask for from time to time.
You know it?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I could play the Star Wars march. I could play Leah's theme.
This guy's amazing.
I used to be a Star Wars nut, but not so much as I used to be. But anyways, okay, so it was a week ago, Saturday, I had a 3 to 7 shift. And I thought, well, all I play here is Furley's Moonlight Sonata and Clair de Lune. And, once in a while I'll throw in Mozart's Turkish March, Rondo. And that's about it. So I took my chances and I played 2 hours of classical music. Just movements from sonatas and some nocturnes by Chopin. I played some Brahms, and I played.
You do this all from up here?
Yeah.
Wow.
So 2 hours.
Wow.
2 hours of classical music. And, well, it was kind of quiet, and I was hoping some people gave me a few approving nods. They liked what they heard. Got some approving nods, but the strongest reaction was from the teenagers. I saw a group of teenagers, and this was nearly halfway through my shift. A group of teenagers, they're high school. You know, they were dressed up like anime characters. Yeah, anime characters. That's the only best way, because they had the hair colored and the nose piercings and stuff. And so they walked past me, and they're like looking at me. And two of them, boy, like I would imagine it was a boy and his girlfriend in the group. And they're like looking at me, and they're like giving me these looks. And then the boy gives me this. Gives me that. Yeah. He gives me that. And so that was about the strongest reaction I've got.
Arrogance of youth.
Yeah. Hubris.
Yeah, hubris.
So, anyways, but otherwise, you know, people didn't mind. Some of my coworkers were asking, so you changed up your repertoire now, or you know, changed up your MO, or what? It says, no, I just wanted to see how people would react to hearing 2 hours of classical music for a change, to see what it, you know, what kind of reaction I would get. Okay, so and that was pretty much it. You know, it was a very
interesting thing would be if you were to plan that, and then if they did a statistical study and see if sales go up or down.
Oh, that would be interesting. Saturday afternoon
or early evening, and see depending on the music that's being played, if it affects it one way or another.
Okay, so after 2 hours, I took my 15 to 20 minute break, and so I decided to go back to Casey Kasem mode, playing America's top 50. So here I am playing Chicago, Elton John, and you know, the usual stuff. And all of a sudden, people were coming over and saying, he says, you're playing is so awesome. Or, you know, just giving me all these comments. I even got, a couple people went up to customer service and left notes to the managers to let them know that, you know, that was their favorite piano player. So, but that was the experience. So I might try it again. We'll see. But anyways, if you like our content, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, make comments. You know the whole MO, right? And another thing, I brought this back. It's piano polish. Corey, piano polish. So some of you have already seen this before, but I wanted to be sure that you all had a good look in case you have friends or family wondering what to do as far as polishing their piano. Do not use furniture polish, okay? Use this. Oh, and I'm also told that they also have a line of cleaning items for the piano keys as well. So from the same company. All right. So, anyways, how shall we start things off? My wife Kathy, went down to Stockport, Ohio, to go visit our lovely grandkids. And on the way there, she got to go to a thrift store. Oh gosh, Mark, I taught her well. The items that she had found for me. One particular item. Okay, yeah, you ready for this?
Okay.
All right. She found me a CD recording of Gershwin. It may not be what you think, but check out this and check out the contents.
Gershwin performs.
Yeah, but it's not what you think. It's not piano rolls.
Wow.
Now, these recordings are reproduced from acetate tapes, I guess. And supposedly when they found these acetate tapes, they discovered that they were recordings of radio broadcasts, from during Gershwin's time. And some of them were, disintegrating, so they saved what they could. And this is the fruits of what they found. So let me show it to you. It's a beautiful cover. So, have you heard of this?
No.
No? Okay, well, it's interesting. I mean, you'll hear, when you play it on your CD player.
This is the kind of stuff that only New Yorkers or San Franciscans or Chicagoans might have access to, because, you know, they had these local broadcasts on the radios and stuff, and then people in the radios were able to record things, you know, and then there were these unofficial recordings available.
Yeah.
And you could occasionally get that. There was a whole market in the past.
Yeah.
It was a big deal in the classical community. Pirated recordings. And if you could meet people, it's almost like, I remember in The Odd Couple one time that Oscar and Felix end up on this old people's cruise, where all the food is kind of for old, in the old days. And I was thinking this is healthy for them. But there was a guy that, you know, like a flasher guy.
Oh, God.
And it was loaded with sandwiches, you know, pastrami.
Oh,
gosh. Really great sandwiches. Oscar went crazy about it. He even bought the coat, the whole coat from the guy.
Oh, jeez.
But it was, the classical music scene was like that with these pirated recordings.
Yeah.
Like, if you could get your hands on things. And they started to, you know, once everybody was dead that was involved with it, I guess new copyright issues of this, it started to become publishable legally.
Yeah.
And now there are more things that have come out. Like there's a new collection. For some reason, I'm associating it's connected with the Japanese somehow.
Yeah.
But there's a new Horowitz box that's available of previously unreleased materials, either because he didn't approve them, or they were never meant to be approved because they were recorded illegally.
Yeah.
Things like that. But there's apparently a box. I mean, Wanda's gone. Horowitz is gone. They never had any kids. I don't know who might have been holders of the estate at some point, but apparently now it's like a historical artifact, you know, a legacy kind of thing, which is more interesting than somebody's personal taste or something like that. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. Did you notice some of the tracks here?
Yeah.
They have here Variations and I Got Rhythm.
Yeah.
You're familiar with Piano and Orchestra?
He's got it published.
Yeah.
Well, I got a recording with him, Oscar Levant.
Yeah.
Playing it.
And I'm surprised that sucker only lasts 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah,
it was a lot shorter than I thought it was. I was thinking it was going to be as long as like the Paganini Rhapsody or something.
No.
But it's not. It's only a 5-minute work, but a brilliant work nevertheless.
It's fun.
Have you heard the second Rhapsody?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah, I know that one.
Wow.
But I think some of this is because of that album we talked about in the previous show.
Yeah.
Where, what's his name? Michael Tilson Thomas. Uses his orchestra to accompany piano rolls.
Yep.
Where Gershwin himself has played the roles, I think, in every case.
Yep.
And I think the second Rhapsody. But then, also, I believe you mentioned this, that didn't Earl Wild record the second Rhapsody?
The second Rhapsody? I am not aware of any recording of. I know he did Rhapsody in Blue, I Got Rhythm Variations, and the Concerto in F, and that's about it.
I've got some odd, I've got some Gershwin LPs, and of course CDs, but I also have some interesting other LPs that are over there in the hall.
Yeah.
Because they're not classical, they're like classically-ish.
Okay.
Like a concerto pianist kind of themes from famous movies.
Yeah.
You know, some of the famous ones, like Peter Nero.
Peter Nero, okay. All right, gotcha.
And I'm not sure, but I know I've got a recording of the second Rhapsody. Yeah. That kind of thing.
Have you ever seen the score?
No.
The second Rhapsody?
No.
Well, look.
Uh-oh.
Here, let me see what you think of this score. Because, you know, when I first heard it as a kid, I was in high school at the time, and I thought, that's that opening theme. Bum, 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 bum. How's it go? I know it's supposed to be in here. There it is. Dun, 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 right? I almost thought that was, he sort of borrowed it from the Rhapsody in Blue thing. So, but anyways, here it is. Check it out.
Wow. New World Music Company. That's his.
Yep.
That's the ones that publish his stuff. This is really good shape.
Yeah, it is a good shape.
A lot of Gershwin's stuff is I mean, if it's is this original? Not a great time, but I mean, it's usually a little beat up.
Yeah. I protected it. I've had the score for a while.
It's cooler. Yeah. Boom!
Yeah.
It's cool right from the beginning.
Yeah. Now, according to the some of the history I've read behind this work, it had other names tied to it. It was also called, the Rhapsody in Ribbons. Because sort of like a jackhammer quality.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the thematic material. Wonder if that's where he got the idea from. He lived in New York City. They were building skyscrapers back in the day.
He's got this biggest smile on his face looking at this score.
This is pretty cool. Huh.
You like it?
Yeah, it's very cool.
It's yours.
Oh, no.
Yes, it's yours.
How can you do that?
Because I have 2 more copies at home.
Oh, thank you, buddy. I really
Sure
appreciate
thing.
that. I've never seen the music to this.
Well, now
It's
you
just
have.
a beautiful condition. I think it's very kind. Yeah.
You're welcome.
You know, we've talked about things in the past. We should talk about doing some at graves where we would accompany each other.
Oh, absolutely.
I definitely want to do the Nights in the Gardens
of Spain.
I'd really like
that would be
to do
fun.
that. And what did you want to do?
I wanted to do the violin concerto by Beethoven.
For piano solo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that would be-
interesting.
Yeah,
You
those are 2 very hard things to find these days.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the latest. I don't know who was the latest performance of Knights of the Gardens of Spain. I mean,
Well, it
has
was.
there been any performance
I don't know.
lately?
I don't know. I'm
This
sure
year
there's
or
Spanish.
last year?
I'm sure there's Spanish pianists playing it for sure. But Rubinstein loved it and had some wonderful recordings of it.
Oh yeah.
And De La Roca, Alicia, she recorded it. I saw her play it at least once.
Yep.
I remember in Boulder for sure she played it. I
Well,
love it.
yeah.
It's such a, for me, it's such a lovely piece of music. I'm really
beautiful.
quite touched by it.
I mean, it's the
Spanish
best work
music.
in Spanish Impressionism.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best.
I really love it.
Close you're going to get.
I did a concert one time. Was it totally devoted to it? It was when I was in Tucson. I did these kind of piano chat type concerts.
Yes.
I don't know if that's somebody's word for it, but I think Jeffrey, what's his name, does keyboard conversations, right?
Yeah.
But I think I called mine Clavier Clutch. I think
Clavier.
Clavier Clutch. I had to come up with something new. But no, Rubinstein's love affair with Latin American music.
Oh yeah.
And so what I did was I read excerpts from his biographies, the first and second books, of, for example, the first time he went to Spain, his manager sitting there, and he ended up getting re-invited for more and more and more stuff. He was supposed to go for a few concerts. He ended up playing a gajillion of them in a month or two, and developed this great, deep love affair with Hispanic people in Europe and South America. And I played some of the pieces he was known for, but I played some things by Granados, by Albeni, by the Three-Cornered Hat Dude.
Oh,
Defia.
Yeah.
And Brazilian guy,
Villa-Lobos,
various things like that. It's very atmospheric, lovely music, really beautiful. But the Beethoven Violin Concerto for piano.
For piano, yeah.
Gunnar Johansson,
Yes.
famous Danish pianist,
Yeah.
friend of Victor Borge,
Yeah.
was a student of Egon Petri, and I don't know if he had the chance to know, not sure he had the chance to know Busoni.
Yeah.
But, it was, Petri was his teacher, and then he also, I don't know if he ever played for, but he said Ignaz Friedman had a vacation home up on the beach in Denmark in the summer, and used to go up there and had a piano and then he'd practice and stuff. And Gunnar said he used to go and listen outside the house the Friedman playing.
Like, oh gosh, that would be quite a...
But anyway, look him up, Gunnar Johansson. We featured him, talked about him on shows before, and I think by now he's actually up in one of our shows, photographs and things.
Oh, wow.
But he was Times Man of the Year at some point. He was an artist in residence, the first solo artist in residence in the United States at the University of Wisconsin from 1939 forward. And it was there. He only retired shortly-ish before, well, maybe it was 10 years before I got there. But Howard actually took over the position, Howard Karp, that Gunnar had as an artist in residence. He was an amazing man. He was a wonderful man, very friendly and kind and so forth. But he had played all and recorded all Beethoven's music, all Mozart, all Bach, buttloads of lists. I mean, more than you ever at the time would have known Liszt ever wrote. And a lot of it, he did it as his home studio. But he got a call by way of some managers or people like that. He was on the faculty up in Madison. He got a call. He said they wanted to do a world premiere of Beethoven's setting of the violin concerto for piano. The pianist is sick, and Eugene Ormandy is looking for somebody to replace him.
Yeah.
And
that pianist was Peter Serkin.
Was it?
It was.
Well, and in this case, they said, is there any possibility you can do it? And he telegraphed back, yes, I can do it. Now, that meant that he got the telegraph that afternoon, and I think the situation was that he needed to be in Philadelphia for the next afternoon.
Yep.
So 24 hours later or so, for a rehearsal with the orchestra and then the first performance that evening.
The evening, exactly.
So we're talking 30 hours?
Something like
before
that.
the performance.
Yep.
First thing he gets off the phone, he tells some of his students, go over to the library and find me a copy of that. And Madison being Madison, the kind of amazing place it is, there was a copy in the library. So then Gunnar called his wife and said, pack my bags. I'm going to come home, get my stuff, and then I've got to get to the train station and leave for Philadelphia. So the students found the score. They gave it to him. His wife probably brought his stuff in from home because he lived an hour away in Mount Orem. But then he went to the train station, got on the train station, went to Chicago, and took the train down to Philadelphia. It was on the train when he learned the part.
Yep. He sure did.
And then at the rehearsal, I think it was fair. He had the score up on the piano and played it apparently flawlessly, beautifully. Ormandy was happy. Musicians applauded him, because what a wonderful thing this was. They had no idea that he had just learned the piece on the train on the way to Philadelphia. Had not played it until he got to Philadelphia and first played it actually on the keyboard with the orchestra. And then he performed it that night with him.
Yep.
And the story got out very quickly. And that year, I don't remember what year it is, but you could look it up.
Yep.
Gunnar Johansson, a concert pianist, is Man of the Year on Time Magazine.
Wow. Well, would you like to hear more details about that story?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is this the guy?
That's him.
That's him.
Don't show him the picture.
Yes, okay.
This is a young picture of Gunnar.
All right. He's a
very handsome guy.
Yeah. International Piano Quarterly. This is Emil von Sauer on the cover, but here is the story. That is Gunnar Johansson as a young man. And as Mark says, pretty good-looking guy, rather dashing pianist. But here, there's a little more details about that story.
Ooh, it's in
He says, it's in here. He says he was playing it at rehearsal and noticed that there were, while learning it, he noticed that there's no cadenza. There's a cadenza section where the timpani accompanies it, right?
This is fabulous.
And he was thinking, well, I guess we have to improvise it or something. So, anyways, so he shows up at the rehearsal and he finds out that there is a cadenza to the thing, and it's 11 pages long. And he had to learn it during the dinner break.
That's right. So, I have heard that before.
So here it is. I mean, he says it was 11 pages of the cadenza, and they took a dinner break, and he learned it during dinner, and came back and had it all learned.
Can you imagine?
11 pages. But there's several pictures of him here. But yeah, they gave him a whole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. Yeah, 6-page article
Wow.
on Gunnar in this book. So he did study with Busoni.
He did.
Yeah.
So he's still around.
The Proardi Quartet is mentioned here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, because they were in residence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get a mention here. They talked about all the chamber works that they did together and everything. University honors. Yep. So I would imagine that they talk about University of Wisconsin in this thing.
Cool.
But anyways, now I brought this magazine not just for that. It just happenstance that Gunnar was in here.
That's
okay?
Cool.
But
did I borrow it to read?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I'll leave it here for you to look at. You can look at it. So, but I had other ulterior motives for bringing this magazine here. A while back, we do talk about the Dino Lipati and William Capel,
mm-hmm.
The same generation who passed away. But nobody ever talks about Noel Newton Wood.
Oh, I put him up on the last show or two.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Put his picture up. With the three guys you mentioned, we talked about Capel, Lipati, and Newton Wood.
Newton Wood, yeah. So he's in here.
Wow.
Let me see if I can find it. Dang on it. He's in here somewhere. I know he is. Newton Wood. Page 32. So, page 32.
I don't
there
know
he
if it
is.
was in the last.
I'm sorry?
I don't know if it was the last show. If it was so. Would have been 11 or 10, but his pictures. Did I show his picture?
Yeah.
So, because I didn't know who the guy was, but then I read a little bit about him and thought, yeah,
there he is.
This is a tremendous loss to the piano world, just the way Willie Capel was.
Yeah.
And Dino Lipati as well.
Yeah. But
he had a bit more of a career going for him before he died. But Willie Capel had just started to make a huge splash, and it was in Japan.
He was in South America, and the plane brought him back.
Brought him back, and everyone worries about when he's coming into San Francisco.
Yeah. The
runway runs right into San Francisco Bay, and when you land in San Francisco International Airport, if you're sitting in the wing seat, you can see the water rushing up towards the line. No! Because, I mean, of course, the few times that I landed in San Francisco coming from Asia, we landed on land.
Thank goodness for that.
Unfortunately, Mr. Capel's plane didn't quite make it to land.
Yeah.
And they went down, I think, in the bay. So,
okay, well,
too bad.
I won't give anything away.
About
okay.
what? You don't want to talk about it?
Well, we could. We could talk about his recordings. I mean, he recorded the few recordings available. There's not as many. It's not quite as much of a discography since he died so young.
Yeah.
Here you have Beethoven's Violin Sonata, Opus 30, number 3, with Ida Handel.
Oh, Ida Handel.
You've heard
wonderful violinist. I actually have some recordings of hers I bought.
Really?
Because I looked into her. She was very gifted Jewish lady from way back when, and then had played for years. She had a European career, and she was still busy, quite into an old age. But she was a tremendous violinist. Yeah, Ida Handel.
Cool. He must have big hands. He recorded von Weber's sonatas number 1 and 2. Here we have Chopin Tarantelle, Schumann's Etude Symphonique, Schumann's David Bundler-Tons, Chopin number 2 Concerto, which I told you he did. And he did number 1 as well. Huh, that's an odd thing. I should have kept that vinyl record because there's no listing for the Brahms Sonata number 3 in this. And he did record it. I used to have that record.
Wow.
It had, yeah. And it's not listed here, sadly. But he recorded, let's see, Shostakovich Concerto number 1, Tchaikovsky number 1, Schumann Concerto, Tippett, Michael Tippett. It
sounds like he had some work under his belt before he died. How did he die?
Suicide.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, he committed suicide.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was a very personal thing. So,
Unrequited love kind of stuff?
well, no, not exactly. You want me to?
Yeah, well,
Okay, all right, I'll tell you. All right, so according to this article, he had a partner.
Yeah.
And so.
He was gay?
Yeah, he was gay.
In the wrong time to be gay.
Yeah, but
yeah.
It didn't seem to matter to them.
Publicly open.
Yeah. So, but anyways, they were very, needless to say, they were very, very close. They lived together, they ate their meals together, they traveled around together, and one day, I guess, his partner was complaining of stomach pains.
Uh-oh.
You know, and he constantly did this. You know, he says, one day it's a headache, another day it's a stomach pains.
They didn't take him seriously.
And they didn't take him seriously.
Oh, this is his partner.
This is his partner.
Yeah.
This is his partner. They didn't take him seriously. And in a couple of years, he died.
Cancer.
He died. And so he was so grief-stricken about it that he just canceled his concert tour. He just stayed at home. And one day he got dressed, drove out to the coast, parked his car off to the side, took off his shoes, went outside, took off his shoes, and headed straight for the beach, and he walked out.
Oh, he just walked into the water?
Walked into the water and never came back.
Wow.
Never came back.
Wow. That's like some determination.
Yeah. But, yeah. I mean, that was the story that this tells.
Will you tell the story and everything?
Yeah.
That's right. Come on, people out there, composers. This is great opera material, dude.
Yeah. But
this is perfect opera material.
So this article, they entitled it "The Keyboard Apollo." Cyrus Mayer Homji relates the all too brief career of the extraordinary Australian pianist Noel Wood, who tragically took his own life at the age of 31.
Oh.
There's a very handsome photograph of him.
He was a good-looking boy.
Yeah, he's autographed it, dated it.
That's too bad.
Shortly taken before his 1945 tour of Australia, signed with the name he preferred for the publicity material. Wow. But
so he killed himself at 45?
In 45.
Wow. During the war?
Shortly before his. Well, I don't know when he did it. I mean, I didn't. I mean, it's the date's probably.
How old was it? When was he born?
I'm looking. I don't see a date of when he was born. He accompanied him in London in 1937. Here it is. He was born in the Melbourne suburb of Hawthorne on November 22nd, 1922.
Okay, so it was 53 when he died.
Yeah.
1953.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there it is. On December 4th, 1953, 2 weeks after his 31st birthday, he took his own life.
Oh.
So he had just turned 31. But look at all these names. Dino Lipati, Julius Katchen, William Capell, Richard Farrell, Noel Newton Wood. You could accumulate the long list of pianistic victims of the epithet.
Did Julius Katchen die?
Yeah, apparently so. I did not know that.
Oh, look at that, because I thought he had quite a discography, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't he do a lot of stuff?
I did not know that, because he's the one that did that huge box of Brahms.
Yeah.
He did the complete works of Brahms. Anything else? I used to have a vinyl recording of him doing the Rachmaninoff Second Concerto. And let's see, on the other side, he did Dochnani's Variations in a Nursery Tune, and he closed the program with Valkyria's Islame.
Who's this?
This is Julius Katchen.
That's quite a program.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was on a vinyl record. It was pretty cool. I think it was under the London label.
Mm.
I think I still remember it. It had this. It had this Asian painting on the front. It was pretty cool looking. Very colorful. But here, I'll leave this to you. I know you'll want to read about Gunnar Johansson and read about Newton Wood.
Wow. Well, Fonsauer too.
Yeah, Neil Fonsauer. And they do a survey of all the recorded performances of Liszt's B minor, and they rate them all. Yeah. Guess who wins that competition?
B minor performance?
The B minor listed on it, the best one on record.
I have no idea.
Your buddy, Alfred Brendel.
No way!
He made number one.
Really?
Yep, he made number one.
Good for Alfred.
Yeah.
No, I've got recordings of him playing it too.
Yeah.
It's really quite stunning.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Quite visceral.
Yeah.
You know, Brendel, if you guys didn't know it, earlier in his career, I mean, he did, like, I have that big box set. It was one of my early purchases from, I think, Murray Hill.
Yeah.
It was all the Beethoven piano music, everything.
Yep.
Variations, sonatas, blah, 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 blah.
He did it like
And with the concerti and stuff. And and then I've got a Brendel box set as well. But back in those days, he also played a lot of Liszt. And of course, later on, there's the YouTube videos of him playing in that particular, it's not a church anymore, they use it for recording. Yeah. And he plays the Année de Pèlerinage.
Yep.
Video record of the whole thing.
Yep, he does.
I think, in my personal opinion, the best performances I've ever heard of Totentanz by anybody is with Alfred Brendel playing with the orchestra from a late 50s recording or something. Oh my God, it's so demonic. Yeah. Oh, the way that he plays, just the way he gets the piano to roar and stuff. And who did he study with? He studied with the Swiss pianist.
Yeah.
Edward
Stewart? No.
No, Edmund Fischer.
Fischer, yeah.
Didn't he?
Yeah, you're right.
I think he said Fischer.
Yeah, he was. He was of that branch there.
He was a remarkable pianist. I mean, the guy just played lots of repertoire.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And I mean, I think he was lucky. He took on, after the Second World War was over, and of course, he was actually Bohemian. So it was, where was he born? Was he Czech or something?
I don't know.
He wasn't German, per se. He was a German speaker. Yeah. But I think he was from some other part of Europe that was, well, German for a certain period of time, but then not. But he had a huge and busy European career to begin with, and he was making records like nobody's. Yes. Partially because coming out of the Second World War in the 50s, as Europe's trying to grow up again and reestablish itself as a great cultural place, they were looking for people with this kind of talent to demonstrate, we're sorry, it was that whole Nazi thing, but then, and Nazi sympathizer things, various places in Europe which were happy to work with them. But then there's this, we've got this as well. And he had an incredible recording early. Recording legacy. So much stuff that he set down.
Well, there was a reason for that. If Harold C. Schoenberg's the great pianist is taken as reference, he says that Alfred Brendel didn't win any competitions.
No.
He built a career mostly on just recordings and performing. And
who was that? Russian Lisitsa.
Lisitsa?
Who did the same thing.
Oh, Valentina Lisitsa.
Unfortunately, she's become a Putin person.
Yeah.
And that's hurt her career and everything lately. Yeah. But she and her husband immigrated. They were Ukrainians?
I think they are.
To North Carolina or South Carolina.
Something like that, yeah.
And she started to do these YouTube videos. She actually would go over to a local college or university and play on the pianos they had in there in the space and they'd record them. She built up her career sufficiently that way that people started paying attention. She was a huge YouTube phenomenon.
Oh
for a while. And then
yeah.
she got invited to play concerti with orchestras, some big ones.
Oh yeah.
And then she got a job teaching somewhere. And for a period of time, her husband, who was apparently, she felt, and said he's an equally fine pianist, he just didn't want it as bad as I do.
Yeah.
And a little more private than that, but he was making money as a taxi driver in the United States.
Yeah.
And she had a real good thing going for her. I mean, it's amazing because she grew out of a little place in the Carolinas, doing some YouTube videos, but playing in the grand Russian style.
Yeah.
I mean, the way she played Liszt and Rachmaninoff and things, it reminded you of the old school, the kind of way they did stuff. The sound that she would pull out of the piano sometimes, and of course, amazing fingers and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she went and got politically involved.
And she was one of my mom's favorite pianists today.
Lisitsa.
Yeah, Lisitsa. She says she likes Lisitsa. I mean, she doesn't.
Is there anybody else that comes to, no, is there anybody else that comes to mind that have done it, not by way of competitions, but just by that sheer.
Oh, Earl Wild.
Earl Wild.
He has never won a competition, and he went and built a career playing music that nobody else would play. You know.
And I mean, to put it this way, he started out on a high level.
Oh yeah.
He was, when they put the NBC Symphony Orchestra together for Toscanini.
Yeah.
That was his own orchestra.
Yeah.
Earl Wild was the orchestra pianist.
Yeah.
For Toscanini, man.
Yeah.
And then he went on to work for NBC television, arranging and directing all the music making for shows and things like that.
Yeah, he did.
He made a good living from that over the years.
Well,
But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. So, anyways,
thanks for that. Brendel's always been one of my favorite people. I find, as I've grown into my own level of artistry, I have a very different approach to music than he would in some cases. Like the 3 Klavierstücke of Schubert, the last pieces. Yeah, I listened a while back. It's been at least a year or so, but I was sitting in the parking lot listening to the second one. Okay, I love Alfred, and everything he did, and everything fabulous. And I met him a couple of times. He's a really great, influential personality.
Yeah.
But I just thought, why do you do it like that? Just
nothing.
It was a little driven, and of the way he played through the ends of the phrases, I just thought, I don't get that. And dum 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 da dee dum da dum dum da dum 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 da dum. It's not that bad, and it's not that straightforward and dicky like that. But I feel ya dum bum ba bum da dee da dum da dee bum da da dee da da dee bum. Just a little bit of lift in it. There's a little bit of dance. It feels not sarabandi, but what's the other one that has the emphasis on the second beat? One of the old dances,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It almost sounds like a string quartet.
But I've met him first time. I had some recordings of his. I was in high school going to go to Wittenberg.
Yeah.
My polyester 3-piece suit on.
Oh.
I went to Mershon Auditorium in Columbus by myself.
Yeah.
Drove the Volkswagen up there all by myself. Bought my ticket, and I saw him do. I think it was all Schumann concert.
All Schumann, wow.
And I had a letter that I written to him, and I had a business envelope in my pocket. And I went to the green room afterwards and stood in line, and I was too starstruck. And he's a very tall guy too. He was like 6'3" or something.
Wow,
big, giant man. And I was, probably at my best. I've been like about 5'9". But I just now it's a little different now. But back then, this is like a god,
Yeah.
And I just reached in my pocket and I shook hands with him, and then I reached in my pocket and handed him an envelope, And he took it and looked and kind of smiled in a way. He had kind of funky teeth and he had kind of funky smile. But he looked at me kind of funny. And in it, I had written to him in German.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you speak English or not.
Oh.
Turns out he eventually was Sir Alfred Brindle.
Yep.
Right? He got Sir. He lived in London and all that.
Yeah.
But I know him in Springfield, Ohio, back then. But I said, you know, I've been studying German and I've been studying piano and I'm going to continue to go on and major in piano and all this kind of stuff. And I wish you well in your career and maybe we'll run into each other someday or something like that. But it was just on ordinary white paper with lines and I wrote it out by hand. Well, I think it was at least 6 to 8 weeks later, I got a gray envelope in the mail with cardboard in it to support it. And it was from Columbia Artists.
Wow.
And inside, out came a black and white 8x10 photograph of Alfred Brindle at the piano, and he signed it to me.
Oh.
Now, I'm pretty sure it's out there in my storage. I can look for it. I can't let that go.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure where it is, because some of my stuff got kind of displaced when I lived around the world and things. But I was so touched by that. And then years later in Madison, he was a guest artist on the concert series in Madison, Wisconsin. And he was practicing in my teacher's studio, Howard Karp, and he was in there. And that was an all Schubert concert. He played the D major and the G major. And I remember in the D major, the building was built like a fortress in the 60s. It was really solid. The rooms were quite solid. They were soundproof, you know.
Right.
You could hear a little bit coming through the doors, but the doors were really thick wood, you know. But the thing I remember about standing outside, listening to him with the D major, you know, really profound, big sound. The door was vibrating from the volume in the room. In the frame, the door was just like shaking like an earthquake. And that was a lesson for me that I'd been taught all the way back. I remember I went to play for Theodore Letford in Michigan, and he talked about the sound that you make in a small room and in your own house versus the sound that you pull out of the piano to speak to the balcony way up there at the end of the hall. That was a real good example.
Wow.
Because it wasn't an ugly sound, but the force of it. You're talking, so what it was moving air, right?
Yeah.
Sufficiently in the room that it was causing the door to actually push to what level it could move inside the door frame. It was vibrating and it was amazing. But then I went to see him after the concert. Howard and I went together. I told Howard my story about meeting him. And he said, "Oh, that's a very cute story. We should go tell it to him." Oh, no. Because I was still a little starstruck. And he said, no. He's a very friendly guy. You know? Yeah. So we went into the back of the stage and went up these little stairs. And there he was again, still very tall. Yeah. Big smile. Yeah. And he knew me that time because Howard already told him. Yeah. He said, "Hallo, mein Herr, Sie sind der Briefschreiber, huh? Hello, sir, you are the letter writer, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I am," in English. And then he immediately broke English. He said, "Yeah, and I've learned to speak really good English since then." But he said, and then he remembered completely. He said, "I remember that." He said there was this young man who came with glasses and very nicely dressed and everything, and he handed me an envelope. He said, "I thought it was my paycheck." He said, "I thought, now why is this little young guy giving me my paycheck?" And he said, "For that matter, why are they giving me a paycheck in person?" Yeah. You know, because that's not the way it was done. Yeah. I said, and he said, then I opened and I read it. He was so sweet and so charming. Yeah. And he said, "Your German was fine, you know."
Oh, wow.
But I love the fact. It says a lot about a person.
Oh, yeah.
Howard had told him who I was.
Yep.
But he really did remember.
Yeah, he does.
Back in all of his travels everywhere in the world, at Mershon Auditorium in Columbus, Ohio, this guy in this suit showed up and handed him a white business envelope. And he said, I says I was so surprised.
Yeah.
But and he said, you didn't say a word. I said, no, I was too embarrassed.
Oh gosh.
Anyway. Well, so that's my Brindle story.
So my experience with Alfred Brindle, I knew he did record the first year of the Year's Pilgrimage. I knew about that.
Is that all there is? Or I thought he did the whole thing.
I think he may have done the whole thing, but I'm not sure. I can't verify that. But
they're on YouTube, at least some of them.
Oh yeah.
And then they're available as video. DVDs.
DVDs. Yeah. Yeah. But I've also known him to record some of the Hungarian Rhapsodies.
Oh yeah.
As well. In lesser known, and I have never been able to locate this, but remember those old ads and advertisements you used to get in a newspaper where you buy like 10 records for a penny or something like that? Well, I found an old one. I found one years ago. I found an old one years ago and had one of Alfred Brindle's records on it, and it was recorded fantasies and paraphrases by Liz.
Oh wow!
It had, and it was hard to read because the lettering was only that small, but I could see, and it was clear, Lucia de Lammermoor on it.
Ooh, that's
so there was a paraphrase.
That was a
or fantasy on Lucia de Lammermoor on it. So he had recorded that, and if you look really closely, he also recorded the fantasy on La Sonambula. And if you know that work, at the end, the last couple pages, Liz treats you with this 4/5 trill while you're playing the theme with the other 3 fingers.
Yeah.
So
we can look in that box set.
You can look at if it's in there?
Look.
Okay.
And see if it's in there.
Yeah, I like to know.
I have a video box or something like that, which is Alfred Brindle's complete collection from some period of time.
But I also know that he also recorded Mussorgsky's pictures. Mussorgsky's pictures, he's also recorded Stravinsky's Petrushka, and he has a recording of Balakarev's Izome on the same record. I used to have it on cassette tape. I might still have it. I'd have to go look.
Brindle really was the real McCoy.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually he kind of settled in, and I don't know how much that was commercial or how much it was his own desire eventually to focus mostly on the high Viennese classicists. He played all those. Did he record all the Mozart concerti? I don't know. A lot. Of course, he did the Beethoven's more than once, like 3 or 4 cycles of it, and Schubert. You know, because later on he became so famous as classical. Classical period. Pianist, but the guy had the wherewithal to do anything and everything.
Yeah, he had a whole program.
It's amazing to me that his came down as the best Liszt sonata performance.
Oh yeah, it's on there. Read about it.
Wow.
I mean, their accolades are wonderful. But you remember that radio program, Paul Hume's Piano World?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a topic of conversation on that show once. And they played some of his more rare recordings. They had on there a toccata by Busoni that they played on there.
Not a Bach arrangement, but Busoni.
No, it was a Busoni toccata. And I mean, not including, there's no, I don't think the score had a fugue to go with it, but it was just an original work by Busoni. But I would also like to find the recording of him performing the Schoenberg Piano Concerto is still available. Yeah,
I know he did that.
You know he did that?
I know he did that.
Okay, all right.
It's not one of my favorite works.
No, it's not a great work, but the fact
that
Schoenberg
is not one of my favorite composers. I love Berg.
Yeah, Berg.
And I actually kind of always curious for a period of time to listen to Weber. Because the textures that he creates and stuff are so interesting. It's like, in the back porch in the summer evening when you got little bugs flying around, you want to swat them, Sorry. But Berg, come on, the violin concerto, Wozzeck, the operas and stuff, my God.
Yeah. Do you know the story behind Wozzeck? That's a very tragic. Yeah. No. That's a very tragic opera. Very tragic story.
The story,
The story, exactly. Okay, what else do I have in here? Okay. You might be interested in this. I found this in the archives at my house. It is a DVD documentary on Van Cliburn, the concert pianist. So here you get the whole story.
Wow. 2 discs.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you get to hear Rilda B play Brahms' Waltz. And
His mother?
his mother, you get to hear her play.
Who'd she study with?
She studied with,
She's in Russian school, right?
yeah, she is, but she also took singing lessons, sort of the bel canto style, they say, which she carried, transferred to her own playing and taught it as well to, bands.
It's back in the days when they were making these discs,
Yeah,
and they were built to last.
yeah,
They were expensive. Some weight.
yeah, yeah. It's narrated. Yeah, it's narrated by Mike Wallace.
Ooh,
Yeah.
60 Minutes thing.
Yep. Yeah. Now I found this. I found this on our honeymoon in South Carolina.
Wow.
So there
What
was
do you call that place where everybody goes? Is that where you went?
we were in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, cool.
We went to Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah.
Have some good food there.
Oh, the food was excellent. But I'll tell you what, the story about our honeymoon after we got married, we had to see. Kathy has a mother, had a mother that used to live in South Carolina, right?
Is she Southerner?
Who?
Kathy?
No, really. She's been sort of Erie, Pennsylvania, mostly. Then she stayed here in Ohio when her parents moved to Louisiana. They stayed there for Louisiana for a while. Then
Is her dad in the
South
military?
Carolina. Yep.
Okay.
I think, I'm not sure, but I think he was
Navy.
Navy. Yeah. So, anyways, her mother had this dog. Okay, it was a Australian Shepherd, and her mother being, a seasoned citizen, she couldn't move very well, couldn't keep up taking care of the dog, so she had the dog sent to one of her daughters, Kathy's sister, up north in Aurora, Ohio. Okay, so
Around Cleveland?
yeah, nearby. So, anyways, we get married. We're getting ready to take off for our honeymoon to South Carolina, and we get a call from her mother, and she says, "I really miss my dog. Is there any chance you could drive up and pick up my dog on the way over to South Carolina?" And Kathy's, "Oh, sure, we can." So we didn't get to drive all the way to South Carolina. First, we had to go drive up to Aurora, Ohio, to pick up her mother's dog, Australian Shepherd, and it was a sweet dog. It really was. I mean, it kind of sat there in the back seat like this the whole time, and you got to hear every once in a while, his boredom set in, and you'd hear the back seat, And so we took rest stops and walked him around and had him do his thing, and we eventually dropped the dog off over her mother's house. So anyways, so we drop her off and we go to Charleston, checked into the hotel, and it's a hot day. It was just hot. So we check in, bring our stuff to our room, and we turn on the television to the Weather Channel.
Oh no.
The Weather Channel. And so the Weather Channel says, the guy comes on, and the winner of the hottest place in America, Charleston, South Carolina, with 105 degrees.
Oh
I'm like looking at Kathy and so Charleston, South Carolina won. You said you wanted to do some sightseeing. You still want to go sightseeing? And she goes, wow, 105 degrees? Let's go for it. So we just had to go for it. So anyways, so we're out downtown walking around, and well, every other stop we had to run into a store because it was so hot. Now they got these metal gratings, on the sidewalks, and some of them actually blew cool air out, and to show you how hot it was, to tell you how hot it was, even the dogs and the cats were laying together on the metal gratings. They decided to take the day off from not chasing each other, and cats and dogs, they were lying together on the metal grating to try to stay cool.
Oh, that's funny.
So, but anyways, we eventually made it to this multimedia store. They sold records, tapes, VHS cassettes, cassette tapes, 8-tracks, everything, including DVDs, which is where I found this.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and I just looked at it and I just said, "Oh, we have to see this."
You do have a DVD player, right?
We did have a DVD player.
You did or do?
Well, I don't know if it's in working condition, but if you want to see this, I'll leave it here too.
Oh, okay.
So,
maybe not this week.
okay.
Because I'm a little busy, but I can read these things.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to have time to watch.
Anyways, that's a story about. I would imagine that was probably one of the beginnings of my pre-PSI investigation.
Yeah.
I was going through that, and they had a grand piano there, by the way.
Ooh, in the store?
In the grand piano. Just so people would come in and play. And of course, I didn't want to play. All I wanted to do was look through all their stuff.
Yeah.
It was a humongous collection of classical music. I wish I had all the money to buy some of that stuff. But one of the, I noticed, I was talking to the store owner, and he talked about I can't remember the name of the guy. His last name is Armstrong, but I can't remember his first name. He was a competitor in the Van Cliburn competition. He got an honorable mention.
Not Kit.
No, not Kit. No, it's a different Armstrong. I mean, I could find out later on who he was, because you eventually sent me a link to one of his videos.
Oh.
You did. It's been a couple of years since you did it, but it was about how a pianist handles phones going off during a recital.
No.
You remember this one?
No, I don't think exactly.
So, anyways, he's accompanying a violinist. He's accompanying a violinist.
Oh, I do.
And so he's sitting there playing, accompanying the violinist, and an audience member's phone goes off. It goes off. And he stops playing completely. And the violin player is wondering what's going on. He pulls out his own phone and goes out. It's just starts mouthing. He doesn't say anything, but he's sitting there talking, mimicking, talking into his phone and making these hand gestures like this. And the audience is just laughing it up. And so,
good for him.
Anyways, he closes his phone, and he had a flip phone, by the way. And he shoves it back in his coat pocket, and they decide to start the movement over again. That's how they continue playing. So, but it was a very good video. I thought it was hilarious.
So, a little thing about Charleston.
Yeah.
If there's any foreign people ever watching.
Yeah.
There was, at the end of the Civil War, the war between the states, in the United States, 61 to 65, General Sherman, the north side of the government army, went on a scorched earth campaign through the South, beginning from, say, Tennessee all the way to the ocean. And the point was to destroy infrastructure which could possibly use for further violent purposes.
Yeah.
Not so much the Confederacy had fallen and surrendered, but they anticipated possible commando-like or guerrilla things. And so they went through and they ripped up the train tracks, burned down lots of buildings, important ones in the cities and stuff like that. He was from Ohio, General Sherman. So is Grant ultimately. Grant did the same thing.
Yep.
Born in Illinois, but mostly considered Ohio's own. Sherman's March to Georgia, it was called. And when he went to, am I right about this? Is it Charleston, South Carolina, or what's the famous Savannah? I'm wrong.
Savannah, Georgia.
It's not the same. It was Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah. But
Charleston is a similar kind of place.
Yeah.
In that relatively pretty old cities.
Yeah.
They actually predate the founding of the United States per se, because they were founded in the colonial days when England ran the show. But it was Savannah, Georgia per se. But he could have said the same thing about Columbia if he didn't go there.
Yep.
But not Columbia. But where'd you go?
What do you mean?
In South
Charleston.
Charleston.
Yeah.
They're what's called antebellum, A-N-T-E-bellum,
Mm-hmm.
which means before the war, meaning for in America, that means before the Civil War.
Yeah.
So there's got a lot of money, big houses, mansions, and things like that have been really well preserved over time. With all the destruction that he created all the way through, by the time he got to Savannah, and one could say the same thing about this beautiful city of Charleston, he was so struck by the poetic beauty of the city. The architecture, the homes, the old trees, what do you call them, mosses?
Yeah, palmetto.
And all that
trees.
stuff. Yeah. He couldn't bring it to his, he couldn't
Bring himself to do it.
He couldn't burn it down.
Yeah.
And it was left alone. The American Allies did the same thing in the Second World War when an admiral convinced Roosevelt not to bomb Kyoto. He had been a student studying military things there, and he said, "No, you can't do this to Kyoto. This is one of the great historical places in the world."
Yeah.
It turns out that with Japanese architecture, they caught fire all the time. They just rebuild it.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, he said, "You can't do this because the Japanese people, this is their heart, this is their soul. Tokyo might be the government, might be where the power is,
Yeah.
but the spirit of the Japanese people is in Kyoto. And if you destroy that, you might as well just level the whole country because there won't be anything left of it." And Kyoto was safe because of this American admiral who spoke directly to Roosevelt and pleaded for him not to bomb Kyoto. So they never did. And Sherman did the same thing with Savannah, but
Yeah.
some of those eastern seaboard countries. Charleston was founded like 1732 or something.
Yeah.
It's really old.
Oh, yeah.
And Paula Deen was famous down there. She had her big restaurants down there. The chef lady kind of got in trouble years ago.
Oh, I don't know about this.
She's a wonderful cook. I mean, serious high cholesterol Southern cook. I mean, like deep fried things.
Wow.
Double deep fried.
My kind of lady. Okay, so the next segment here on our episode today, we usually have a PSI at the movies. So this is a very different movie. You probably know this movie. It's called The Fabulous Baker Boys.
No. Well, I've heard of it.
You've heard it?
Oh, yeah, I know these guys.
Yeah.
This is Jeff, what's his name? Bo Bridges, Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges.
Brothers.
Yep, they are brothers.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, it's jazz stuff, right?
Yeah, it is. But they're pianists in this movie. And
So
so
they look convincing?
yeah, they look convincing. I mean, it's not, and, you know, they're sitting, they don't show their hands, okay, for one thing, but they do the actual mannerisms fairly well. You know, they're, Bo Bridges, you know, he sits there behind the piano and he's like singing this way, you know, and he'll sit there and play like this, you know, and they're calm, chill, you know.
Do their hands and arms belong in the places where you hear the music coming from? That's the thing
Pretty much.
that I think is really comedic and like,
Yeah.
you know, when they're checking for like keeping things pretty much straight and correct in films, I forget what the person's called that does that. But like if they're smoking a cigarette in one scene and it goes to a different camera angle,
Yeah.
you still have the cigarette in the same place kind of thing.
Yeah.
The thing I love in some of these old shows is there was one, it's a Perry Mason show, and the ladies played the piano.
Yeah.
There's all this bass shit going on
Yeah.
in the piano, and she's way up here in the treble.
Trouble.
Is yours piano wired different from mine?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, anyways, here's the back picture. I know you want to see the back
Michelle,
picture. Yeah. All right. Anyways.
I noticed that.
Okay.
Anyways,
Anyways.
the gentleman today, I didn't mention it.
Okay, good. Fabulous Baker Boys.
Show him the back side.
I'm not going to do that.
Oh,
Here,
come
you
on,
guys can see
Michelle.
this. I know it's Michelle, but she's on the front part too.
No, but
See
the
something in
backside's
between.
better. Backside's always good.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yes. You're fond of the...
That was a hell of a time.
Yeah, I know. So, but anyways, you'll be happy to know. They had pianists on there. It was David Foster and David Grusin.
Dave Grusin?
Yeah,
Woo!
two of them. So, and the music's actually pretty swinging, pretty hip, cool. Yeah, it's very cool. And Michelle Pfeiffer does her own singing.
Really?
Yeah, it's her own singing, and she has a very
sultry voice.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get much more sultry. Oh God, yeah, it's very good. I mean, and she's more of a chanteuse quality about her playing. She does her audition piece in the movie was More Than You Know, and Jeff Bridges is sitting there, just chilling, playing a few chords.
Yeah.
And her character name, it sounds like a jazz artist, Susie Diamond.
Susie Diamond. Wow.
Susie Diamond.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
are they both in love with her kind of thing or something?
No, it's nothing like that.
Oh.
All right, so the premise is, if you're planning to watch the movie, the basic premise is that the two of them are duo pianists, so they've been playing the same songs at nightclubs and bars, for numbers and numbers of years. When finally, some of the bars have heard the same song a little too many times for the years, and so they have to change their act. And so Bo Bridges says, "I think we need to bring in a singer." And so they start auditioning different singers, and you get to see the auditions. Those things are hilarious. And so they got about half a dozen or so singers coming in, wannabe singers, audition. And of course, they all flop until Michelle Pfeiffer shows up and just says she's the one. So, but it's well done. Now, if you're going to find, there's no action. It's not an action-packed film, but they bring her in, and their lives, take a different turn, and she's responding to different places that they perform at differently, and she's basically changing things. So, and of course, Bo Bridges, has this sort of she's moving our cheese attitude about it.
Can I ask you a question?
What?
This is a little, you call that gripey thing?
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like it's kind of a pleasant, it doesn't necessarily mean love, but romance film. Kind of in a sense. Light romance, just pleasant, good music, there's affection or something like that. But there's no shooting.
There's no shooting.
There's no
Nobody
wild
gets killed.
sex in it or anything.
No, well.
Oh. Well, Michelle has to give up the goods. Huh?
So, yeah, there's some scenes in there that are sexually charged. Okay, let's put it that way.
Either one of the pianists?
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to tell you who.
Oh, I'm sure it's Jeff.
But anyways,
Bo's more of a comedic character.
But it ends well.
Yeah.
Okay, it does end well. Okay, but not the kind of ending that you would expect, where a full 101 strings is playing at the end and all has happy. But it's just sort of a.
When was this made?
This was
back, right?
Yeah, this was probably during the 80s, man.
Yeah, it looks like it.
89.
So, when I see movies being made, of course I'm not attentive to all of it, but generally what then you see coming on, and we don't have TV either, but we watch Amazon or TV or things that have paid their dues and now are available, to watch at home kind of thing. Are they making romantic, like romance films like we used to have, or is that genre kind of coming? Because I know, ever since the days of Rambo and stuff like that, there's lots of shoot 'em up stuff.
Oh yeah, lots.
Big time, especially since 9/11.
Yeah.
Military oriented films like that. Yeah. And it seems like films having to do with quote unquote love are more geared towards teenage audiences and sex with young people who technically aren't even adults yet.
Yeah.
So, are they still making lighthearted? What they used to say, a lighthearted romp.
Lighthearted romp.
So they used to say about things like 7 Year Itch with Marilyn and that guy.
Yeah.
There's no sex in that movie.
No, there isn't.
There's no really wild anything in there. I mean, you get to see her skirt blow up a few times.
Yeah.
There's some moments and stuff, but
Yeah, I like
it's
the
kind of
piano
playful
scene.
and comedic. It's like what's her name? Sing "Que Sarah, Sarah, Sarah."
Oh, Doris Day.
Her films.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, I'm not meaning to be old-fashioned or a prude or anything like that by any means, but there's more to life than bloodlust, violence, and raw sex.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I mean, in and of itself, I'm sure they all have their place here and there, but sometimes it's just a pleasantly entertaining film with some good humor, some, you know, sensible people, some nice music, you know.
Yeah.
Those are good movies, a lot of them, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
The majority of them, I mean, at one time, I'm sure it was because of, what do you call it, censorship and stuff like that. But, I mean, come on, I think some actors were really lucky, like later on in his career, especially probably at least a dozen or more films that Cary Grant did.
Oh yeah, Fair to Remember.
And I think they're all, you know, sometimes they get a little bit more of this or that way, but I think they fall into kind of the genre of a romantic comedy, or something is the way they used to describe it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're quite good stories. And
oh yeah, very.
He looks good. Always had nice clothes on. He looks good. The charade that he did with Audrey Hepburn, right? Yeah. And then what's the one he did years before? Philip was in Philadelphia something with Jimmy Stewart and Katharine Hepburn. He's in that. Yeah. I think it's called A Philadelphia Story. Or The Philadelphia Story.
I think you're right.
But anyway, that's cool. Yeah. I should look that up and watch it because
it's rated R.
I've heard about it, but I did not know that it included those people. And I loved Michelle Pfeiffer when I was younger, when she was younger.
Oh yeah.
Remember in what's the movie with the three witches and Jack Nicholson?
Oh, Witches of Eastwick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah. Cher.
And Susan Sarandon.
Sarandon. And Jack Nicholson plays
the devil.
Yeah.
I thought, you know, Cher was Cher at the time.
Yeah.
And I always thought there's something about the eyes and her nose and everything. I thought Susan Sarandon was pretty hot.
Oh.
Period.
Yeah.
But Michelle Pfeiffer, her character is the cutest. And
absolutely.
The sweetest person, and she plays it so well.
Yeah.
You know, she was an interesting actress.
Did you see her in her film debut?
What was that?
Grease 2.
Oh, she did Grease?
She did Grease 2.
Oh, I didn't
Grease.
know that.
Grease 2.
Wow.
Yeah,
so she played the role of Olivia Newton-John in Grease 2?
No.
Or she's a different character?
She's a different character. She plays one of the Pink Ladies.
Oh.
And what happens is there's a new student that arrives at Rydell High. And it happens to be Olivia John's cousin.
Oh, Michelle
It's
Pfeiffer.
a guy.
Oh.
It's a guy.
Oh.
All right. And so, no, Michelle Pfeiffer's already well established. She's your all-American girl who is a member of the Pink Ladies. Okay? But the new guy, you know, he's different. Yeah. He's got this Australian accent. And he's like
Billy Dangerous guy.
Yeah, and so he's very proper. He's got manners. He's clean cut.
Oh, so no.
You know, so no,
Not
he's very
Elvis.
No, he's not Elvis. And you know, of course, the Thunderbirds are still around. They're the next generation Thunderbirds from the first movie.
Oh.
And so yeah, and I saw the movie. Okay, all right, I'll admit I saw the movie. It's not as good as the first one. They tried to bring back all the energy back on Grease 2, but it just didn't. They just couldn't do very well.
Well, is the guy the same kind of star? I mean, some people are just true star quality.
The guy?
Most anything that John Travolta did was pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
And in some cases, extraordinary, like Saturday Night Fever.
Saturday Night Fever.
That's one of the great classics. That's an amazing film.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. We saw a film recently, King of New York, with Christopher Walken. Yeah. John Travolta and Christopher Walken, they're both so alive, so one could say, are extraordinary dancers.
Oh, yeah.
Really light on their feet. Really good. Did you see, it was on Amazon and Freevee stuff. But it was a commercial during Christmas time this last season for Citibank, I think, or some Visa card.
Yeah, where they do.
And I didn't realize it at first, but it was
it's
John Travolta's Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And he's going through New York in the same places that he would have been.
Yeah.
And there's even a couple characters, like the one lady where he goes to the store, she says, "Oh my God, where have you been?"
Yeah.
You know, and it's one of the ladies, which was really super young in Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
And she's running the store and stuff.
Yeah.
But
so
he's got the moves when he's in the old disco place and doing the thing Santa Claus.
Did you see the sequel to Saturday Night Fever?
No.
There's a sequel to it.
Is it good?
No, not really. But it's Tony is back in the sequel. It's called Staying Alive.
Oh.
And so he decides to take his dancing more serious and decides to audition for this new
I did see
production.
it. I did see it. No, I did see that film years ago.
You did see it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so anyways, yeah. So you.
But who's the young girl in the original Saturday Night Fever that has sex for the first time and then she's really traumatized by it?
Yeah.
And she's at Dorothy Hamill.
I know who you're talking about. I remember that girl.
This really... the portrayals... Who's the director of Saturday Night Fever? Is it an important person?
I believe he's a very important director. He's a major director.
I'll look it up and put it on. But he gets some amazing performances from those young actors and actresses because her character...
Yeah. She's the tragedy of the whole...
It's
movie.
Terrible.
Yeah, because...
At the end and how she feels.
Yeah.
Doesn't she jump?
No, it was actually one of the boys that jumps off. Her ending is very tragic because of what Tony says to her at the end.
Yeah.
You know, he says to her, that comment he made to her at the end of the movie cuts like a knife. I mean, it really was.
Does he ever regret it or anything? You know?
Well, she's sitting there crying, and he calls her a pig.
Yeah. It's an amazing film. Laura had never seen it, but we recently watched American Graffiti.
Oh, yes.
Richie,
young
Jack,
Harrison Ford.
Cruising out Los Angeles, LA. She'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
And I think Saturday Night Fever is comparable to American Graffiti in having... There's something, of course, classically wonderful about the youth frozen in a particular period of American history.
Yeah.
But the acting is so good. They got really good people. Like, who's the chief kind of collegey guy that gets in with the bad gang? He ends up doing a lot of great shows. He's in Mr. Holland's Opus.
Richard Dreyfuss?
Yeah, Richard Dreyfuss. He's a young collegey guy. Richie's rich kid from somewhere, right? And did the dude with the glasses.
Ricky Moran.
Yeah, that's Ricky Moran?
Yeah, that's Ricky Moran. He drives around that sports car
with the girl with the hair.
And some guy drives and says, "Is that you in that car?
Yeah.
What a waste of metal."
We watched it, and I hadn't seen it for a while, but I realized, damn, that's a really great movie. It totally captures the spirit of the time, you know. And then when we're talking about Saturday Night Fever, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
The culture. If you've actually been in New York at that time, or I was actually. We talked about, and I featured some stuff in the last show with the crazy old lady and the Mafia Bakery and all that. And,
well, I'll tell you what, Saturday Night Fever was based on a book.
Is it?
Yeah, it's based on a book. And it was basically a commentary on the city life in New York.
Mm.
And it's called Tribes. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Interesting.
But basically it talks about the different classes and how they all have one thing in common. And it's just trying to survive. And which is how the song Staying Alive was inspired.
Cool.
Because it's a group of people, and each group is like crying for help, just to survive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, New York is definitely one of those kind of places where almost out of necessity, people got to step on top of each other.
Yeah.
In order, if you're going to move forward, somebody's going to have to be down there for you to actually walk over.
Yeah.
And unlike some pleasant places out here in the Midwest, where
Yeah.
we're a bit more genteel.
Yes, absolutely.
Perhaps equally competitive, but we keep a smile on our faces.
Oh God, no kidding. Yeah. So, anyways,
Cool.
we're approaching 20 till 5 o'clock, and I thought this might be a good time.
You have to roll.
Well,
Ish.
around
We started
5:15. We started about 3.
We started about 3:10, I think. So,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
I thought this might be a good time to have our reveal.
Party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've been listening, paying attention, we had a few assignments. We had our reveals last episode where we revealed who are the 5 musicians you want to meet in heaven, right? And the second reveal was the themes or ideas I got for our PSI theme.
Oh, yeah.
So I revealed that. But now comes the big one. Okay.
We've done this like 3 or 4 times, I think, but
Yeah.
this is the first one that's ever going to actually make it up
gonna make
online.
it, yeah.
And hopefully,
Yeah.
relatively contemporaneous, that it could stir some responses on YouTube or Facebook
Yeah.
with your answers.
Yeah, please. Okay, anyways, the assignment was if you were going to throw a party, birthday party, whatever kind of party, what 10 composers would you invite to the party and why? Okay, so anyways, I have mine on cards. So I'll go first, or okay, sure. All right, so the first one on my list. Let me see. Make sure I have 10 here. Let's see, 1, 2,
curious, is it still the
3,
same
4,
list, or did you come up
5,
with a
6,
new one?
7, 8, 9, 10. No, it's the same. I didn't change anything. I mean, I definitely think this is
This is the ideal party.
Oh yeah. So the first person, Albéniz, Isaac Albéniz. Yes, the Spanish composer, pianist. The reason I picked him is because, by all accounts, especially Arthur Rubinstein's book, My Many Years, he talks about how Albéniz was actually, every time he shows up, he's actually the life of the party. He says he tells stories and jokes and would have the whole tables at the party just rolling with laughter.
He was apparently a roly-poly a bit.
Yeah.
Shorter kind of guy.
Yeah.
But the women went for him like flies on the
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and he's had a very exciting life too.
Wasn't he like a circus kid performer or something early on?
Well,
he
was a child prodigy.
Tricks.
He was a child prodigy, and his mom or his dad, basically exploited him.
Huh.
And so by the time he was about 9 or 10 years old, he was still dressing him up to look like a 6-year-old. And so basically the concert uniform would be, he'd have this hat. He basically dressed him up as a musketeer. Okay, so he'd have
French guys.
Yeah.
Not the Mickey Mouse people.
3 musketeers. Okay, 3 musketeers.
Yeah.
So think D'Artagnan. He'd have the hat with the feather going out this way, and he actually carried a sword on stage.
Wow.
So when he sat down to play, took off the hat, took off the sword, sat down, played, and by all counts, he was probably one of the greatest child prodigies since Mozart. But one day, according to Harold Schoenberg, he got tired of all the attention and got tired of being dragged from place to place to perform. That he finally just lost it and ran away.
Mm-hmm.
And so those lost years were spent sneaking on board cruise ships.
Mm-hmm.
Cruise ships, and playing for all the people that were on these cruise ships.
Mm-hmm.
And they would give him, of course, throw money at him, and he'd buy his food, and that's how he survived. And, well, of course, the father, being supposedly the concerned father, had the authorities chasing him down, trying to find his whereabouts and bring him home. And so every time the authorities came close to picking him up, he'd just jump off the ship and find another one to get on. So, but anyways, if the story is accurate, they finally caught up with him on one of the cruise ships at the age of 13 already. So he had been gone for a few years. They caught him at 13, and they had him at the office down in Cuba. The father was communicated to, and he came down to Cuba to go see his son. And so apparently the two of them talked in the office for about a half an hour alone.
Mm.
And after the half hour, the door finally opened. The two, father and son, walked out of the building. They looked at each other, shook hands, and parted ways. And so the rest is history. But that's Isaac Albeni's thing.
There's a recording up on YouTube of him playing.
Really?
It's just still photographs.
Yeah.
But it's like better than an Edison recording.
Yeah.
But it's pretty decent, and you can hear him playing. There's apparently improvising or playing something.
Yeah.
But I remember hearing it. I was wondering even if it wasn't on a DVD as well that you gave me to listen to. That featured ancient recordings of the pianist. But yeah, if you look up him on YouTube, there is this historic recording that's there, or you can hear him play quite a facility.
Wow.
And he did do some interesting things. I wonder if he was left-handed, maybe, because he introduces a lot of principle and complicated left-hand things.
Yeah.
In many cases, his melodies are not soprano. They're more tenorish or baritone, playing against other things in the right hand.
Yeah.
He's a very interesting pianist. And he was one of the founding members of basically the School of Piano playing and study in Spain.
Yeah, very prolific composer. Mm-hmm. During his time, his compositions were considered unplayable, too difficult.
Some of them, and then Godofsky took some of them and made them even
more hard. Yeah, Godofsky. Thank you, Godofsky. Leo. Yeah, thanks to you. All right, so the next person on my list, a very unexpected entry, Peter Warlock.
Oh yeah,
Peter Warlock. Now, why Peter Warlock? Well,
this is a true story.
Yeah. I later found out reading or watching a movie. Some of you may have heard of it. It's called Music from the Locked Room. And it's actually a biodrama about Peter Warlock. His real name is Philip Heseltine. And he's a music critic for the newspaper, a very prominent newspaper. And he would show up to these concerts, and he'd listen to the music of his alter ego, Peter Warlock. Okay, and of course, when he got home, he'd write up the review and give it a scathing review, basically ripping on his own composition.
Are you going to talk about this? Was he conscious of the bipolarity? Or?
No, he was not.
He did not know.
He did not know.
So this is true schizophrenia.
So this is true schizophrenia.
Split personality.
Two personalities, split personalities.
Wow.
Philip Heseltine, the music critic, and Peter Warlock, the composer. And apparently, as Peter Warlock, he would drink himself to oblivion.
Yeah.
He lived in a broken down apartment, and trying to compose something. And when he didn't like it, he'd throw it all into the fireplace. Mm-hmm. So he was a very troubled individual. So check out the movie. Like I said, I picked him because, you're getting a 2-for-1 deal here. Philip Heseltine and Peter Warlock, 2-for-1.
What kind of life did Heseltine live?
He lived in a nice place. If the movie's any reference to what he was really like, he lived in a very nice apartment, very upper class.
Did he have a relationship with anybody? Or
He did.
He did?
He did have a relationship.
Heseltine did.
Heseltine did. In the movie, he does. He has this passionate affair with a nightclub singer. And they had this affair, and one night she discovers that, while they were at his apartment, he's gone. So she follows him.
So she figures it out.
She figures it out. And
does she confront him with it?
Yeah, sort of, not exactly, but he knocks on the door of Peter Warlock, and here's Philip Heseltine, and she's like yelling at him, is this a practical joke? what the hell are you doing and all this, and just starts ranting and raving. He says, what are you doing to yourself? This is horrible. What are you doing here? And as soon as the guy opens his mouth, she starts to realize this is not the same man. Wow. And so, anyways, he goes out and tries to find one of his friends to find out what's wrong with him. And so he just happens to have this buddy of his who's a pianist, okay, and tries to find out what's wrong with this guy. He says, is there any way we could help him? He says, why would you want to help him? He's a musical genius. Some people have a way of working. This is the way he works. We have to the only thing we could do is help him stay alive, and keep producing. You can't, he says, he's perfect. Believe it or not, even though he has these mental issues, he's perfect the way he is. I mean,
So
as a
people
composer,
around him eventually knew the truth
yeah,
of the double personality.
oh yeah, some of his closest friends find out about it.
And no one ever interferes he lived his life that way.
Yeah, he lived his life that way.
And he never becomes aware of it.
He doesn't become aware of it. So, anyways,
That's how
it would be interesting.
Anybody ever write an opera about that one?
Oh, that would be interesting. Oh, I've always wondered.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde,
Exactly.
Music World.
I've always wondered if somebody was going to write an opera on that story.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Or even Dorian Gray. That'd be a scary one, too.
Ooh, all three characters. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Dorian Gray, and
Peter Warlock.
Peter Warlock and Philip Hazeltine.
Oh, gosh.
Three guys telling their stories all together and make something up out of that opera.
Okay, so we have Peter
Very
Warlock.
cool.
So, Albani's Peter Warlock. The next one is Robert Schumann. Robert Schumann. Why? Well, believe it or not, I'm still getting a 2-for-1 deal with Robert Schumann because he was the one of the chief music critics for the Zeitschrift.
Music, yeah. Zeitschrift.
And so
Zeitschrift for Musik, I think it's called.
he had two characters, Florestan and Eusebius, and who wrote 2 complete reviews of the newest compositions of their day. I believe it was Eusebius wrote about traditionalism in music. Florestan was more interested in the future of music. So that's why.
I don't know if it's still true, but at least when I was in school, in the doctorate, this magazine was still being published.
Yeah, I heard that.
It was still running.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still going now, because that's been 20 years since I was in my doctorate. Yeah.
Yeah, we better try to Google it and find out. All right, so we have Albani's Warlock, Schumann. Next person, Franz Liszt. Now, who wouldn't want Franz Liszt at their party? He loves parties, and I'm sure he's quite the socialite. The next one, Bela Bartok. Yes. So I wanted to be sure Liszt had a fellow Hungarian, worlds apart. Bela Bartok, during an interview, newspaper reporter asked him, "So how do you get inspired to write some of your music? How do your ideas come?" And so he says to the reporter, "Well," he says, "I imagine myself walking through the forest, and I see little people or creatures popping out from behind rocks and trees, going blah blah," and that's what he imagines. So anybody that's willing to tell their inspirations like that is pretty good in my book. Okay, he'd be great at the party. The next one, George Gershwin. I've always wanted George Gershwin. I would love to have George Gershwin simply because he's an American, and he's pretty hip. He's quite the swinger.
What I think would be cool, because I was thinking, of course, Franz Liszt would hit the piano.
Yeah.
Play.
Yeah.
But George was famous for that. It's like some people said, "Oh God, there's a piano here, but no, George is going to play for sure."
Yeah.
All night long. But what if you got the two of them
together? I know.
I think Liszt could do it.
Oh, Liszt very well could do it.
He could. Whatever Gershwin gave him, I think Liszt could work it out.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he could.
I don't think George would be as flexible as Liszt.
Yeah.
But that would be so cool to hear them both play together.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to hear Chopin and this play together, which they did often.
Yeah.
Chopin always said he played in the bass because he didn't want to be overshadowed by Liszt.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Plus, he wanted to control the rubato.
Oh, yeah, sure. That would probably be it, too. So, after Gershwin comes his buddy, Maurice Ravel.
Ooh.
Maurice Ravel. You know, those two got along pretty well, I think. So, but anyways, the real reason why I picked Ravel was he also was interviewed by a newspaper reporter. And the reporter asked Maurice Ravel, what do you consider as your greatest masterpiece? And without hesitation, he says, without a doubt, the Bolero. But unfortunately, there's no music in it. That was his reply. So, anybody that would give an answer like that would be great at parties, I think. Now, the next composer I can't mention without mentioning the other two as well. Okay, so I'm going to give you invitees number 7 or 8. No, scratch that. Invitees numbers 8, 9, and 10. All three of them. Rachmaninoff, Alexander Glazunov, and César Cui.
Wow.
César Cui.
What's the three of them?
Rachmaninoff, Alexander
Glazunov.
and César Cui.
Is this because of the famous story?
Yes, because of the famous story. If some of you Rachmaninoff fights, you will know. I think you'll understand why.
It was his first symphony, right?
It was because of that first symphony.
Written as a student.
Yes.
And it's not a bad work.
No, it's not a bad work.
But go ahead.
But okay. Anyways, Alexander Glazunov was appointed to direct the premiere of Rachmaninoff's Symphony No. 1, and from all accounts, it was a terrible premiere. Miscuing the orchestra and just being off balance, terrible technique, and the story has it that he was inebriated, drunk when he did it.
Well, this is not unusual for 19th century Russian gentlemen.
So yeah,
No.
But Rachmaninoff was in the wings, and the stories are true. He's supposedly, after the first 10 minutes,
He got up and left. He went to the bar.
He went out the back fire escape, ran across the street to the bar, and he was drinking himself to oblivion, and his hands shaking, and telling his buddy, "I need a cigarette. I need a cigarette." And so, which caused his depression for the next few years. So, from all accounts, they say that
Was this his depression that led to the ultimate creation of the second piano chair?
It sure did.
From the psychiatrist.
Yes, the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyways, yeah.
And then Cui.
Yeah, César Cui was the newspaper critic who tore the work apart.
Sliced Rachmaninoff a new one.
Yeah. So, but anyways, some of you who know the story, the reason why I want the three of them together, because I think Rachmaninoff has an "I told you so" coming.
Mm-hmm.
So he at least those of that and the other two.
You'd like to see them hash it out.
They would like. They all.
You're going to invite three huge Russian guys to come into your party and start a fight?
That would be different. I mean, I could see George Gershwin and Ravel in the corner saying, "I placed bets on Rachmaninoff, definitely." And Bartok, the cigarette smoking Bartok would be over there, going out like this. Come on, this is Doc, stuff. But Albany's, he'd probably still be back there. And I don't know, but anyway, that is my top 10 list as far as composers go.
Oh,
more about these guys later on in an upcoming episode, I would imagine. So, anyways,
me?
It's your turn.
I don't remember what my original answers were, but I do remember I only had something like 3 different possibilities.
Yeah, you
depending on the theme. The one that I would go with again has to do with formalist versus experimental
Yeah.
people. One might say, what's the other word? Dionysian versus, what is it, Dionysus and Apollonian, which represents similar things. Those basically classicism versus romanticism. I thought they don't all per se fit into a very clear mold. Some of them do. But I was thinking, let's start with Beethoven and Schubert and Brahms and Mahler. I'm not sure who else to include there. And then on the other side, Berlioz, Liszt, Wagner, Debussy. And then I suppose the other two guys, because I was only had 8 so far of those, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be interesting to have Strauss and Schoenberg. Because I don't think they necessarily fit on either side.
Yeah.
Schoenberg comes, I think, at his music from a very formalistic point of view.
Yeah.
I think he goes, because originally what he wrote was some very chromatic, romantic kind of stuff, which one might say might have, in a certain way, apply on the Lisztian side of music of the future. But actually, or maybe Wagner, I'm not so sure, but I think that it's possible that Schoenberg felt that from a harmonic point of view, there wasn't anything left to do. The chromaticism basically tore apart.
Yeah.
And Wagner perhaps is one of the great examples of it beginning to collapse, perhaps. I mean, beautiful creations, I think, but and then it's interesting because then he develops control again in music, but he does it by getting rid of harmony per se and just using the tones in certain rows, collections, or combinations. He was pretty strict about this stuff all the way through his work.
Yeah.
I think Berg managed to still find spirit and heart and even harmony in a way in his music. So in a sense, I think Schoenberg went from being a romanticist in the school of advanced romanticism to kind of reacting conversely to moving towards formalism. Because, he writes piano sonata, concerto, different works that use kind of classical forms to hold the musical language he's creating. And then Strauss, he finds his way into the later 20th century into more divergent post-chromatic tonality.
Yeah.
But he often tends to place the stuff within predictable structures.
Yeah.
Because he wrote a lot of tone poems. That in and of itself was something that maybe Liszt would take credit for as a form. But then he also wrote the Alpine Symphony and some different things in the operas as such. So I think those two guys are a little bit there. But I thought it would be interesting to hear just a conversation. But then again, I mean, Beethoven, we got him there at the beginning of all of it. And of course, all of them would look at him as some kind of a god. But he himself is also a transitional figure in terms of formalism. Because he takes the works created by Haydn. I I left out the 18th century guys because I thought maybe the 19th century is interesting to see where formalism and romantic narrative depart and come back together and things like that. You're going to get pretty strict formalistic arguments like, I would assume Haydn and Mozart said, what the hell is this shit, you know? I don't know if they would even get it.
Yeah.
Interesting, I think Bach would. I think Bach would get almost anything.
I'm sure he could.
Bach would go to Schoenberg and said, now, I wrote a tune wrote 200 years before I ever got into your head.
Exactly.
It was the B minor fugue of the first book. Or the B flat minor, maybe it is.
Yeah.
But I'd just be curious to hear what they have to say, because I'm not a fan of the Second Viennese School in general. I really do enjoy some of the works of Baird. Yeah. Schoenberg just leaves me hanging, man. Now I do like some of the early stuff that he wrote, where he's still got his voice there with chromaticism and some very powerful things. But then he did that wonderful orchestration of the Brahms G minor.
I was going to say
piano quartet. That's really cool. It's a really good work too. I think Schoenberg is actually quite masterful. They talk about Ravel being one of the great orchestrators, but I think earlier on, I think some of the great writers for orchestra would have to include Schoenberg. Really had a great sense for the colors of things and really good orchestrating. I think Stravinsky fits in that.
Oh yeah,
one of the great ones. Ravel, of course, is acknowledged for it. His version of Mussorgsky's Pictures as an Exhibition, for example. Anyway, those are my guys. I was interested in the idea of pitting them against one another, but it's interesting that if you, like you had said this too, while I was listening to them, the formalists tend to still be mostly associated with German culture, right? Beethoven, Schubert, Mahler. Who was the fourth one I mentioned? I forget. No, I didn't mention him. And then it's one of the Frenchy kind of guys, which are moving into changing. No. Well, not necessarily, though, because I started with Berlioz, Liszt, Wagner. No, that's a mix. But I think at the very beginning, it would be interesting to see what, for example, Berlioz and Beethoven would have to say about the music that's being written by the beginning of the 20th century.
Yeah.
What they think about that. Because, I mean, some of Beethoven's last stuff, it's still tonal, but it's out there. And the guy was deaf as a stone. Yeah. But it pushes the limits in some ways, which are really extraordinary. Yeah. But yet, he still is following the rules in there somehow. And, of course, he was a big one for breaking down forms. Oh, yeah. He's the one that led in. That's why sometimes Beethoven's called romantic, because he broke down the classical forms. Yeah. I put Schubert in there too because he's more conservative, I think. But he explores some very interesting colors and goes into relative keys and things that are quite stunning. I mean, there's certain Schubert tricks where he'll go off into the lower third and the lower sixth and create these almost heaven-like moments where they don't feel like you really get your feet on the ground, because somehow harmonically you realize that the language that you're speaking in that moment is not grounded. Yeah. It's not going to go back home. Mm-hmm. You're like separated. And it's a lovely thing. Anyway, that's it. That's kind of my answer. I had some other ones which we could do again in the future for different thematic purposes, but I was curious to hear that, because I suppose because of my education and everything, I've always been interested in this idea. It goes back to the ancient Greeks, apparently. The Apollonians and the Dionysius and the philosophies which sprung out of that, and which was probably more adapted for the Renaissance in the 18th century to a later historical period of maybe separating the two in certain clear ways that I don't know if the original Greeks really thought of it that way. But they looked at formalism and classicism versus romanticism and emotional narrative. You know, I think it's critical. So that's my answer.
Well, cool.
Are we done?
I think so.
You gotta go to work.
Pretty soon here, yeah.
Okay.
So, but anyways, I hope you enjoyed our content. Remember, Corey, Piano Polish. Otherwise, subscribe, comment, give us a thumbs up if you like our content, share us with your friends and family. Any questions? I'm good. So
Yeah. So as I've been saying, this maybe will even be posted by next week when we finally do. I think we're getting close to contemporaneous.
yeah, very close.
And it'll be more possible to actually, in real time, once you hear the show, you know, respond to things to where we can really get some forums. I refer to it as the forum on Facebook, which is Marc Elmer's PSI Piano Scene Investigations. It's also connected to our YouTube page, which is also connected to the Facebook page.
Yeah.
So you can get to it at either one. But thanks for being here.
Yeah.
This is us doing what we feel passionate about, what we love.
We're not scripted. We're not scripted.
Obviously.
We're not actors. We're not actors.
Sometimes you can tell, especially when you go back and do editing, it's like, wow, we really cut somewhere into the forest there instead of take away. How are we going to find our way back? We usually do.
Yeah, we usually do.
You're pretty good at helping find our way back to work.
Not bad.
What'd you think about this argument?
Oh, it was great. That was so fun.
I was in a wacky mood that day, and
well, it's gonna be a wackier mood because I introduced a new guy.
Yeah, we'll see what comes of that.
Yeah,
he's looking right in it.
Yeah, I noticed.
No, but we'll see. I won't do that all the time, but I just got in a very Monty Python kind of mood. And I did go to Aldino's
you did go
that morning.
Oh wow!
For Svaljatele. I discovered something too. The ones that I showed pictures of.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned that actually Svaljatele, it does mean lobster tail.
Yeah.
But at Aldino's, they actually make a lobster tail.
Ooh.
So the smaller ones, which are about like this, with the pictures that I showed you, that's got that kind of ricotta cheese, orange and whatever flavor, cinnamon.
Yeah.
Orange and cinnamon ricotta cheese, slightly baked a little bit, so it's a little cheesecakey.
Oh,
but
gosh.
Softer than that in a way.
And
that wonderful crispy stuff, and they put powdered sugar on it. The lobster tails are more than twice as long. It's literally about as long as a typical lobster tail you get at dinner.
Wow.
It's the same kind of shape from a quote-unquote cone out to where it flares out with the stuff on it. But the inside is an extraordinary cream filling.
Oh, God.
That is enhanced with Chardonnay wine.
Oh, gosh. That sounds
There's no alcohol to taste at all.
But,
oh my God.
Bite into one of those. Wow.
There are benefits to getting old and not needing certain things, and then appreciating other things.
Absolutely.
Which more than fill in the gap. And when I filled probably quite a bit.
Oh, God.
But oh my gosh, Aldino's in Columbus, Ohio. They make some basic kind of donut-y kind of things, but they're better than most people's probably.
Yeah.
But oh my God, people, they got sfogliatelle today, and they're what they call lobster tails, and they have
I haven't been there, folks.
what do you call the Italian kind of round cookie?
Cannoli?
Cannoli. They have cannoli, biscotti. Oh, You should see all the different biscotti. Thick cut,
Wow.
and very clearly it's from a big, huge loaf of been baked to a crisp and then cut up. It's a really nice little place, and the baked goods that they have, it's rolls and things like that. Yeah. So that's an unpaid pledge. We're not doing any of this stuff for commercial gain.
No.
Just because we like the project. Well, most everything we're talking about, we like, or we think it's worth talking about.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
And sometimes it has nothing to do with music, but it has to do with our hearts and passions.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, this guy's got to go to work.
Yeah. This is Mark.
And that's Elmer.
And we are PSI.
Yeah, thanks for being here, folks. See you next time.
Well, that was good.